Where do you come from? I mean it. They just drag you out of the street? Where does the audience...
They all won a lottery, Barry. They all, and you're the grand prize, so...
Really, where do we get the audience?
Where do we get the audience? I believe some are fans. I don't know if any are family. Is anyone related to either me or Barry, or do we have any Jews? Are there any Jews here? There we go. Okay, so we have some people here. Some of our people are here. Besides the audience, we're lucky to have you here. You've been going at it for 24 hours straight.
Maybe more.
Maybe more. I know you were up early this morning to do the Today Show.
You know, but on Monday night.
You know, as they say in Empire State of Mind, "Sirens in the Street." This is a song on the new record, by the way.
Tuesday night I did the Concert for America until midnight. Then Wednesday night, it was yesterday was Wednesday.
Yes.
Right. I did the at Radio City. Clive Davis's documentary aired, and then at the end of the film, he had 7 performers, and I was the first guy on, and I did a little medley of all of our hits, and then
if it's all of your hits with Clive, that's not a little medley.
That was a big medley.
It's a longish medley.
It was a long medley, and then after that, so we got home at like about 12 or 1, and then this morning I had to be at the Today Show at 4:30. So, am I still here? So I'm a little tired.
Have a little Red Bull and let's settle in.
Right.
I wanted you were at this Clive Davis concert documentary last night, and it made me want to start.
Were you there?
I was not.
Have you seen it?
Sorry, I have not seen it yet. I've read the book, which it's hard to believe anything was left out of that book.
No, but it was an interesting documentary.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure. You know, I've met Clive on several occasions. He speaks often, passionately, about the importance of the song.
That's what he lives for.
That's right.
Joe, that's what he lives for.
And that's really where I wanted to start, because at the start of your working with Clive, if I remember right, there was a song he wanted you to record that you perhaps were not so keen to record. At the time, it was called Brandy, was it not?
Yeah. Well, most of all, I didn't want to record any outside material. I was the composer, and I was going to make records based on my own material. But Clive has these amazing pop ears, and somehow he can take a very a demo that's not very complete and hear that song is going to be a hit song. Right. And he sent this demo to me called Brandy, and it was an up-tempo rock and roll song from England. And he said, this feels like something that might be a hit for you. And I said, but I write my own stuff. He said, just listen to it and see what you come up with. So I sat and I played it to learn it all afternoon. And I found, instead of the rock and roll part of it, I found a very pretty song hiding in there. And I changed the chords around and I made it slower. But he wanted me to, I thought he wanted me to do this up-tempo rock and roll version of it. So I went into the studio and I did an up-tempo rock and roll version of this.
I didn't know that.
Just like the guy in England did.
Right.
And he came in and he said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, that's the thing you sent me, right?" And he said, "Well, that's not good." I said, "I know, I don't sound good singing stuff like that. But let me just show you what I played this afternoon." And I played it slowly with my little chord changes and key changes and all. And he said, "Yeah, do that. Just do it like that." And we changed the name from Brandy to Mandy, and that's the song that started it off for me.
You talked about writing your own songs. At that point, had you already begun your career in the jingle business?
Oh, that was before that. Yeah.
So you were moving out of the jingle business, because I don't know if everybody knows this, but some of the things that are emblazoned in our mind, the Band-Aid slogan.
Right, I am stuck on a Band-Aid, and a Band-Aid stuck on me.
A Barry Manilow that, right? Composition.
And the State Farm is there, that like a good neighbor stay. Yeah, but that was before the records hit, but actually the whole thing happened right around the same time. But I was very grateful for the years I spent in commercials world, because you have to learn how to write a hook.
Right.
You've got to write the catchiest melody you can in 15 seconds, or the other guy will get the commercial. So I had to learn.
When you're writing jingles, they come in, they tell you kind of what the commercial is about.
Yeah,
maybe
they
give you
want
the
they want a
slogan,
ballad,
and
they want an up-tempo song, they want something for the family, So you've got to write the hookiest melody to the lyric that they give you. You deserve a break today. So
Barry Manilow composition.
At McDonald's or Pepsi or anything. And a whole bunch of composers went up for all of these very big commercials. And I got a lot of them. And that was a real help when I wound up in the pop music world, because it's the same rules. You've got to write a catchy hook.
And instead of competing against 15 other composers for the same job, you're competing against hundreds and thousands for that #1 spot on the Billboard chart.
That's right. That's right. And, I was thinking, for that State Farm Insurance commercial, people must think I made a fortune. I made $500 on that one. Yeah, because they buy you out if you're the composer. But if you're on the spot, talking or singing,
right.
That's when you get residuals.
Okay.
But they paid me $500, which I was very grateful for.
Okay.
I was broke by that. And usually a commercial lasts for a month, 3 weeks or something. Who knew these commercials were going to last for 40 years,
And did you end up singing any of them? Or?
No, it was
girls.
Okay. So the girls on a third Rolls Royce, I'm sure, on that one, right?
So you got the flat fee and went on to the next jingle.
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Well, let's talk a little about this new record. This Is My Town: Songs of New York. It's a collection of some new material.
Yeah, it's half originals and half standards, great standards about New York.
And we were talking backstage. There's some terrific medleys on it. There's Downtown, the Petula Clark song that we know so well, with Uptown, the Phil Spector Crystal song. It really works well. Can't believe nobody had ever done that before.
Well, I found these great songs that that were all about New York, and I didn't want to leave any of them out.
Right.
And so I started to put a few of them together.
Well, there's that medley at the end, which...
well, then I went back to the 20s.
Right.
On that,
I'll Take Manhattan is, I think, from 1929.
I like New York in June. How about you?
Right.
Yeah, I could have gone on and on and on.
And that goes all the way up to Empire State of Mind,
Right.
Alicia Keys and Jay-Z.
And Native New Yorker.
Native New Yorker, the great disco hit for Odyssey in the 70s. So it's a real interesting record. But I wanted to ask about one song that I didn't really know.
Okay.
Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah.
Which is on this record is a duet with Mel Torme.
Right.
It's an old Sammy Kahn song, apparently.
Yeah, it's a very clever song. And it came from a 1940s movie that Sinatra did. And he did it as a ballad. And I've always been a fan of Mel Torme. I did a duet with him on my Paradise Cafe album. He was great. And he also was an arranger, because I'm an arranger. And he arranged his songs, too. So I always admired him. And I somehow heard the Brooklyn Bridge song, and nobody knew it. I mean, maybe you know it, but not many people know it, right? And he did a beautiful chart on the Brooklyn Bridge. So when I decided I would try it, I couldn't top this chart. I loved what he had done so much. And these days, we can actually take the vocal off of an old record and leave the orchestra there. So they gave me just Mel Torme's voice in my Pro Tools file. And then I could do a duet with him and reorchestrate the background. And that's how we did a virtual duet. It's amazing.
It's a wonderful song, and I backtracked to hear the Mel Torme version, and I found it on, interestingly enough, a 1963 album called Songs of New York.
Absolutely.
And I wondered, was that an inspiration for this collection?
Yeah, it was one of my favorite albums.
So, of course, the song is called Brooklyn Bridge, and that leads me back to this being your town. You grew up in Brooklyn.
I did. I grew up in Williamsburg when Williamsburg was very dangerous. I grew up in the 50s, and taxi drivers wouldn't take me across the Williamsburg Bridge. It was so dangerous at night. And I went to...
It was dangerous because there were street gangs? There was what?
Street gangs. It was, it was a real slum. Now I hear that Williamsburg is the hippest place to live, right? Yeah, everybody's moved to Williamsburg, right?
Quite
Not
nice.
when I
There's
grew
a
up.
lot of artisanal chocolate and handmade ice cream to be had there. Yeah.
No, not when I grew up. No, no, no. It was a very dangerous neighborhood. You know, all I thought about in school was, can I make it home without getting beat up? That was it.
So tell me, you went to high school and then you went to music school, is that right?
Yeah, I went to Juilliard for a couple of years, and I couldn't afford to go full time, so I got a job at the CBS mailroom, and then I went to school at 4 o'clock, and then I played in a bar at night, and I did that for a year, and then I started playing piano for a lot of singers. I'm a good accompanist. I'm not a great piano player, but I sound like the whole band. And the singers loved me. They loved having me accompany them. So I left the school and I left CBS.
And this would have been in the 60s or in the...
Yeah, the late 60s. And I started to arrange music. You know, the arranging job has been, is not that important anymore, because people write their own songs and they can do their own renditions of it on their computers. But back in the 40s and the 50s, which I adore, Sinatra and all those singers needed arrangers because they were all singing the same songs. They were all doing I've Got You Under My Skin. And they needed arrangers to make their version different than the other guy's version. So that's where Nelson Riddle came from, and Don Costa and all those great arrangers. And when I was growing up, I was listening to what was going on behind the singer. I was fascinated by what they were doing. That's what I wanted to do with my life. And I did for loads of singers that I accompanied, one of which was Bette Midler. I was on the road with her for a while, and I produced her first couple of albums and did all of her arrangements. And, I played around with those old songs that she loved and made them into her own. And that's what I wanted to do with my life.
Of course, you're talking about the first two Bette Midler albums and the time that you spent before that working with her at the Continental Baths here in New York.
Those were just for a couple of weekends, but
Just
we were on the road.
weekends. We're not going to talk about that, but that's
Well,
it.
that was it. It was just a couple of weekends. People think we were there for years. It was 2 weekends, and then we went on.
Is that really all it was?
Yeah.
I had no idea. It does come up a lot, and you think of it
Well, it
as
was
this
odd.
legendary.
You got to admit it was odd. She's performing in front of guys with towels on. She would sing the Star Spangled Banner, so they would all get up, and the towels would drop, and she could check out the merchandise.
Okay. I would not have thought of doing that.
Okay, say can you see?
Right.
But the two of you also worked together on two records about 10 years ago. A collection. One was a collection of Rosemary Clooney songs, and the other was Peggy Lee.
Yeah, it's great. We loved it. I loved working with her again, and yeah, it was good, great fun.
Yeah. What was it like in those early days? You're playing for Bette Midler. You're on the road with her. You're producing those first two records, both of them a terrific collection of songs. But you were writing your own songs, and you wanted to record those.
Yeah, I was. But I was totally involved with Bette. I believed so much in her, and it was thrilling to watch the audiences get her the way I got her. And she exploded during those few years that I was with her, and it was just thrilling to watch this happen.
Was there a temptation to say, hey, this is a nice song that we're doing, but I've written one. Do you want to try that one?
No, never. No, she picked her own material, and I played around with it and gave it to her back upside down, like, do you want to dance? Which was an old rock and roll song.
Right.
And I changed it into, a ballad, and, the one
Similar to the Brandy Mandy story.
Yeah, that's what I love doing. So yeah, we worked together, and then she took a year off after a long tour, and by that time I started to make records. And when she came back and wanted to go back on hello Manila, I'm about to go back on the road. I said, honey, I can't join you this time. I think I've got a hit record.
Well, it's a good reason to not get back in the band, as it were. There's a story you've talked about before, and I want to ask you about it, about meeting Bob Dylan.
Yeah. Well, you know, it was important when I met him, and when he said that, you know, I was getting killed by the critics, and he came over to me and said, "Don't stop doing what you're doing. We're all inspired by you." That's what I remember. Maybe he was stoned. Who knows? You know, or maybe I just wanted him to say it, but I'm pretty sure he did.
But
he hugged me and said that.
It's so interesting to me, given what we've been talking about, given the career, because you beat him to recording collections of Frank Sinatra songs, or songs that Sinatra is associated with,
Right.
by 20 years or so, and he's just done this triple album of all the great American songbook
I didn't
songs.
know it. It's a triple album.
It is called
And you know,
Triplicate, and there are three discs.
I did. He did one, right? He did
No,
one before
he
that.
did two Sinatras, and now three more. What I'm saying is, maybe you really were an inspiration.
Yeah, well, I don't think so. But, you know, he picks beautiful choices. You know, it's interesting that he would know these great American songbook songs, because he doesn't pick the ones that are obvious. He went deeper into these composers' songs, and I was really impressed. He knew them, and he knew how to sing them.
And when you were doing your own series, you did a decade series, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. How did you go about picking those songs?
They were easy. We picked the ones that were the most popular.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was no temptation to do a 90s or to keep going, or?
No, you don't want to hear me do Bootylicious, really. You know.
No.
No, I don't think so. A ballad version of Bootylicious? No.
I don't know. I might not be ready for that jelly, but I'd like to try.
No, we ended at the 80s. It was great fun, and I really love those songs. I think I like the 50s the best of all. That was the first one.
We were talking a little backstage about the medley that ends this album. You said you had a longer version of it at one point.
Well, there was so many great songs from that were written about New York, and I tried all of them, and I put them all together in a medley. And the first one ran like 15 minutes. I couldn't do that. I was over the top. And I tried every song that I loved that had been written about New York. I even tried this rap song by Grandmaster Flash. By
New York, Big City of Dreams, right?
Can you believe that? I sounded like an idiot, but it was a good song. I thought maybe I could, massage it into something I could do, but nothing worked. Nothing worked. But, you know, I mean, I had like 3 or 4 or 5 more that would have gone into this medley, but I had to edit it down. So, but what's left over is great.
What's left over is terrific. It runs about 8 minutes, and as we were saying, it's a real tour of the decades, going back to the 20s. Great songs like...
And it ends with New York, New York, the great Kander and Ebb song. I had to do that, and it was a perfect place to end the medley with, and to end the whole album with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When you take this out and perform this record, will you be doing that longer version of the medley?
I don't know. I haven't even thought about it, but I have been doing "This Is My Town," the title song, which goes over really well. I'm very happy about that, because Bruce and I wrote it, and only 2 New Yorkers could write this song. If you listen to that lyric, you know that these guys that wrote it are New Yorkers. So I'm very proud of that one. And so far, the audiences are digging it. So I'm happy about it.
All right, we've got time for some questions from the audience.
Yeah. Anybody want to ask something? Hi.
Hey, Mr. Manilow, such an honor to have you here. So thank you for coming.
Thanks.
I was just wondering, how did you maintain such a long career?
Beth beats the shit out of me, man.
But you know, that's an interesting question, because you really have taken a creative approach. Those songbook records that we were talking about were preceded. I remember a special with you singing with country musicians.
I did.
So I mean, you really have gone to different singers, different genres. You've tried different formats. You've been very creative about television specials. So you've really tried different things.
I like to surprise the audiences. After I had that string of top 10 records,
Number 1 records is another way of saying that, but let's keep going.
And it was from 74, which was Mandy, was 75, to 84.
Right.
And that was a long ride of pop singles. And that was the end because music changed. The style of music changed right around there. It was Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie, and I was bored with myself too. I mean, I had done everything I could possibly do in that world. So I started to do albums that had ideas to them. And, you know, like the first one was my first jazz album called 2 a.m. Paradise Cafe,
Right.
which finally got me great reviews, finally. And then after that, it was a tribute to the big band era. Then after that, it was a tribute to Broadway showstoppers songs, and kept going like that.
So you're going back to those songs and those arrangers and that approach that,
Right.
that you were talking about inspiring you when you were younger.
Absolutely. And we wind up here with this idea, and, you know, tribute to New York. And I think one of the things that maybe keeps people coming back is that I keep surprising the audience. You know, instead of just doing another album of 10 pop songs that bored me, I kept coming up with ideas that I was interested in. And then I go out and, you know, I'm the media slut when I have a project, you know. So I go out and I get me excited, I get the audience excited, and so far, so good.
There we go.
Hey, Barry.
Hi.
Thanks so much for coming. I was wondering, who are some of your favorite collaborators during your music career?
So my favorite what?
Collaborators.
Oh, collaborators. I only have 4. I only have 4. I've stuck with them from the very, very beginning when I started to write songs. And they're 4 of my friends, and they are very talented. And those are the 4. I mean, I've tried writing with other writers, and it just never works as well as working with the people who know me, who can write words that really affect me and my life. I think they think, what's he doing these days? What's he feeling these days? What's going on in his life? And then they hand me a lyric. And when I sing it, it sounds so truthful that you might think that I wrote them because they're writing from watching me go through my life. So I only work with 4 of them.
We've got time for one more question.
Hey, Barry.
Oh.
Hi.
Yeah, hi.
Such an honor. Thank you for being here.
Sure.
Just have a question. Where do you keep all those awards?
Well, we've got Emmys, Grammys, Tonys. We've got everything but the Oscar if we're going for the
Yeah.
EGOT.
I did get nominated for an Oscar.
Okay, all right. Well, that's an honor just to be nominated.
I know.
So where do you keep the awards?
I only save the ones that really mean a lot to me. And the rest of them are at the office that, you know, that my manager and Gary keep, because there's a lot of platinum and gold records all over walls and stuff. It's pretty fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we've got one more to add when this is out tomorrow, I believe.
I just hope people like it. I just hope people like it. It's a baby album. I don't know what people are going to think.
Well, there we go. I think they'll enjoy it.
Good.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks.